Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 23 of the WeCOACH podcast on Wisp Sports. Every 2 weeks, we sit down with some of the best and brightest women coaches, leaders, and industry experts in the world of sports for fun and inspiring conversations. I'm your host, Megan Kahn, Executive Director of WeCOACH. This podcast is a co-production of WeCOACH and Wisp Sports. WeCOACH has become the premier nonprofit organization committed to recruiting, retaining, and advancing female coaches of all sports and levels. Through our programming, events, and global community, we are empowering women coaches and inspiring the next generation of young girls who dream of following in their footsteps. We are lucky to catch up with Valorie Kondos Field. Better known as Miss Val, she is considered one of, if not the best, collegiate gymnastics coach of all time. During her impressive 29-year tenure as head coach at UCLA, she led the Bruins to 7 national championships. Known as much for her joy off the mat, she's a breast cancer survivor and all-around inspiration. Miss Val, welcome to the WeCOACH podcast.
Thank you so much, Megan. I'm really excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this. Your podcast is so vitally important in our time right now. So thank you for having me.
Well, we haven't even got started, so thanks for those kind words. As a host of our show, I have to say I am beyond blessed to get to speak with so many inspirational women, leaders, coaches, but I was super pumped for today's episode. And given we represent so many sports, I'm just super excited for our community to get to know more about your background, your story, and what you have in the future in retirement.
Fabulous. Let's get started. Love it.
And I'm warning you, I don't have a shortage of topics that we're going to get to, so we're going to dive right in.
Okay.
Can you give us your background, how you got into coaching gymnastics? Because my understanding is that you weren't a competitive gymnast growing up.
Yes, this is the fun part. And when I speak, I do a lot of speaking now. I'm very blessed to be asked. I love it when they introduce me with my accolades and what I've earned because as a coach, and I'm going to take a second to boast because it's going to lead to the fun part. So they always say, Miss Val, 7-time national championship gymnastics coach, have been inducted into the UCLA Athletic Hall of Fame, have been honored to be named the Pac-12 Coach of the Century, 4-time National Coach of the Year, and a few others. But the most fun fact behind all of those accolades is the fact that I've never done gymnastics. I was a ballet dancer. I was literally a ballerina. And it was 1982, and I was getting ready to start my inaugural season with the Washington Ballet. And I heard that UCLA needed a dance coach for their gymnastics team. So without any hesitation, I found out who the head coach was and got his number and called him up and gave him my resume. And they offered me a scholarship to go to school instead of a salary, and which I accepted. And that was the start of this amazing career in the world of athletics that I would have never, ever had I been too afraid to pick up the call and make the ask.
Well, and I think, you just alluded to so many things, because how many times do we hear women don't put themselves out there, women don't put themselves forward to pick up the phone, make the ask, to make the call, to try to make the connection. We look at all the requirements maybe for a job and go, well, I don't have 2 of those 10, I'm not qualified. So you certainly debunked that myth right out of the gates.
Exactly. I was just having a conversation with one of my stepsons yesterday who was incredibly gifted as a speaker and an empathetic speaker. And we were talking about a career change for him. And he just said, I don't have any qualifications for that. And I said, who are you talking to? You're talking to a ballerina who became one of the winningest coaches in the country. So I'm not buying that.
I noticed you said you got his number and you made that ask. So Certainly you worked for a male coach. Growing up as a ballerina, did you have female coaches?
Do I have female coaches?
Did you have female coaches when you were growing up as a ballerina? Like, did you think about a female being
Yes.
able to be a coach?
Well, I never ever thought of being a coach. I still don't consider myself a coach. I don't really enjoy tracksuits and tennis shoes. I love dresses and high heels. So when people call me coach, I still chuckle inside. I'm like, I'm not a coach. Never been a coach. I'm a mentor. I'm a leader of young women. I'm the CEO of the UCLA gymnastics program. I'm a teacher. But, growing up in the ballet world, the woman that had the most influence on me was our ballet director and teacher. Her name was Miss Ingrid. And I remember at a very young age being taken by the fact that she showed up every day prepared. And I was one of these dancers that I loved to be in sloppy gear. My point shoes were always duct taped together. I just loved the whole grunge look. And she showed up with her makeup done, her hair done, her leotard matching her little ballet skirt. And she was always so well put together. And the reason why it hit a chord with me was she took time every morning to prepare to come teach us the art of ballet. And it was important to her. And once I made that connection, I started changing and taking a little bit more time with myself, my own presentation in the morning. And especially when I was coaching, just realizing that I am making a difference in these young student athletes' lives, regardless if I don't say anything, just how I show up during the day. And if I show up looking like I have prepared to do my best for the day, that is going to have a subliminal message for them.
That's really powerful. I like that.
Thank you.
You're so true. Yeah. You already alluded to some of your accolades, and I'm going to fill in some of the other missing pieces that you didn't list. So 18-time Pac-12 champion, 22 regional championships, which means only 7 times in your career were you not a regional champion. UCLA Athletic Hall of Fame. Have you popped the champagne?
No. Mm-mm. Plus, I married a football coach. My husband was our defensive coordinator here at UCLA. So it's all just about, the fun of competing to win. No, I have not popped champagne. I'm very humbled to be in the arena that I'm in. And what's interesting, and I don't know if I'm just jumping forward and going rogue here, but when you introduced me, you said that I was possibly the greatest gymnastics coach in the country. And when people say that, I hadn't thought about it until just now when you said it. I haven't won the most championships. There are 2 other coaches, Greg Marsden from Utah and Suzanne Yalkin from Georgia, that have won 10 championships. And but the interesting part about this is the people that hail me to be one of, if not the greatest coach, it's how they define success. And it's not the number of championships or conference championships or regional championships and all that. It is it's the number of young women whose lives I've been able to help motivate and mold to live their best, most joyful life through sport.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think as we look at coaches, and you alluded to it, teacher, a mentor, a role model, and there's probably not in my mind a greater female role model than you. So I think that's why I would consider. Yeah, absolutely. But I want to go back to the champagne because obviously this last season.
You want me to have champagne?
Yeah, it is early. I mean, we could be having mimosas.
All right, let's go have champagne. All right, I'll go down and have champagne.
But where I'm going with this is, certainly last year was your, let's call it a farewell tour, super fun to watch as a fan of just women's sports in general and all of the people that celebrated you and surrounded you through this last season. And now we've had 4 months go by. Have you had a chance to slow down and reflect? The accolades, that's the stuff legends are made of outside of the numbers and the impact. Have you had a chance to reflect and allow yourself to really celebrate that?
Okay, since we have signed in our virtual pinky swear we're gonna be extremely honest here, and it's not all rainbows and unicorns. I've been in a funk, actually. I've been in a pretty aggressive funk since I retired, and it's very clear to me that whenever you've done something for the majority of your life, even if it's, been in a relationship or had a loved one or something that you've been close to on a daily basis, and it's gone, my days are jam-packed. In fact, I'm busier now than I've ever been, but I haven't been able to fill the void of every day being around these young, incredible women and our coaching staff. I told people, I'm like, what other job do you show up and within the first 5 minutes, you get 20 hugs and good morning, Miss Val. And it's like, that just doesn't happen. But that was my norm. That's all I've known since I was 22 and I'm 60 next week. Yay. Woohoo. But I've been there 37 years. So that became my norm, and that void is not filled. And so, I've met with a counselor, psychologist about it, 2 of them actually, and they both say the same thing. It takes a good year to reestablish your norm, to get through the funk. And I haven't really thought about all the accolades and popping the champagne. It's more, I wish I could have done more. I wish I would have done more for this person. I wish I had time with these freshmen that came in last year at UCLA to really instill some empowering philosophies with them. I wish I could have done more.
More on a personal level with each individual,
Yes.
or some of these student athletes that you're referring to?
Yes. Yeah. And the one thing that they've heard me, if you ask any one of my student athletes, especially like the last 10 years, what's the one thing you got from Miss Val and being a part of the program, they'll all say the same thing, that life is about choice, and the choices you make dictate the life you lead. And when you understand that every choice you make in life starts with your thoughts, and that for the most part you can control your thoughts, it really takes you from being a victim in life to owning your life. And when it's really cool to see that transformation in a young adult, because their life just opens up in living color.
Well, and we're going to talk a little bit more here in a minute about your coaching philosophy and really how you molded and mentored your student athletes. I kind of want to stay on this topic, though. When you talk about this void, I think this is something that probably not a lot of people are candid about. And we're seeing a huge demographic of female coaches who have given their life to the profession and now taking that step. And it's almost like when an athlete goes from being an athlete, they've lost their identity when their eligibility is up. And so this is interesting to talk about from a coach perspective, because we just don't hear about, so many women maybe don't make it an entire profession out of their life and retire as a coach because of the burnout, because of women leaving the profession, because of being forced out from hostile work environments, et cetera, et cetera. We could name them. So I think this is a really interesting and candid topic. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
Sure. Absolutely.
So also when you look, go ahead.
It's real. It's very real. It's, people most everybody asks the same question that you asked. So what are you doing? Are you thrilled? Are you living life? Is it just wonderful? It's like, I am living life, but it's wonderful in a different way because it's really made me turn myself inside out. And it's not all roses. And, there is a transition period.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about the walking in and good morning, Miss Val, and 22 hugs. What else do you miss? It's August, right? So typically you'd be preparing for a team to come back on campus. What else do you miss the most?
I miss, as a coach, I remember not when I became a head coach, because I knew absolutely nothing and was totally just floundering for the first few years. But after I kind of figured it out and other coaches got head coaching jobs, I remember telling them it is so much fun because you get this program with these young women and a coaching staff, and you get to craft that any way you want. So while it's super creatively fun, it's as equally daunting, because the responsibility that as a coach, as a parent, as a teacher, as anybody that oversees the development of another human being, especially a younger person, it is a daunting responsibility. And I loved that challenge. I loved getting up or going to bed at night the night before and preparing for my day the next day, and thinking of what is the message that I want to instill in them again this morning. How are we going to start workout? What are we going to accomplish today? How are we going to get 1% better today as human beings that will translate to the competition world? That challenge and thrill has not been replaced in my life.
I can certainly understand. I'm going to take that segue, because when you talk about getting 1% better in life and how that's going to translate to the mat, certainly anyone that knows and follows you would understand your relationship with Coach Wooden and how that helped shape your coaching philosophy. So for our listeners out there, can you give us the full 360 on that?
Yeah. So I met Coach Wooden through another ask. I had married Bobby Field, who was our defensive coordinator here at UCLA for football, and he knew Coach Wooden. I had been at UCLA for 15 years, and I'd never met Coach Wooden. And so as soon as we got married, I asked my husband to call Coach Wooden and ask him to come over for dinner. And my husband said, my Coach Wooden has more invitations and opportunities to speak than his calendar can ever hold. The last thing he needs is another obligation. And I said, he can say no. And it's exactly the same feeling I had when I called up the head coach of UCLA Gymnastics in 1982 to tell him my credentials to ask to be the dance coach for the gymnastics team. I remember my mom saying, you just called him up and asked? And I said to her, he could say no. It's okay. I'm not going to take it personally. So my husband came home for 3 weeks straight. I said, you call Coach Wooden? And he said, you know what, my love, he's got so much on his plate. And so finally, to shut me up, my husband called Coach Wooden and said, Coach, I don't know if you know, but I married the women's gymnastics coach. And Coach Wooden said, oh, I know all about Miss Val. And Bobby said, Coach, we know how busy your calendar is and how much you've got on your plate and how many things you have to do a day. The last thing you need is another obligation. And Coach Wooden said, Bobby, I don't mean to interrupt you, but are you inviting me over for dinner? Or are you telling me all the reasons you don't want me to come? So with that, Coach Wooden came over. We had dinner at 5:30 because he was 83 years old. And I figured that was the time that octogenarians ate dinner. And he stayed till like 11:30 that night. And that just started a relationship that was very familial. We were family, my husband and I, with Coach, with his daughter, with his son, Jim. And the asks didn't stop with just that one dinner. And I tell my student athletes, the ones that are saying, Miss Val, I'm not going to have you now in my life every day. And I say, you need to ask. When you want to have a mentor in your life, you need to consistently make the ask. So I took Coach Wooden to football games. When my husband was coaching, I would go over to Coach Wooden's house and we would watch the away games. Coach came to every single gymnastics meet. We would have him over for dinner at least once a month. We would go to his daughter's house for dinner, and it was always 100% of the time because I made the ask. I remember calling Coach one time. My husband was coaching at an away game the next day, and I said, Coach, you going to watch the football game tomorrow? And he goes, I believe I will. And I said, would you like some company? And he said, well, that depends on who it is. So it all came from the ask. And I mean, talk about ballerina who becomes a head coach in a major academic and athletic institution like UCLA, having the greatest mentor she could ever ask for. Like, I could have never dreamed to have a mentor like John Wood.
What are some of the greatest lessons that you learned from him that you now, or for all those years, instilled with your team?
One of the things that I learned personally was he always would tell his players, don't get too high, don't get too low. And he was that person granted, I didn't know him when he was coaching. I knew him when he was 80, 90, almost 100 years old. But for me, I grew up on stage. So I remember being in the wings and, you get yourself pumped up and you take some deep breaths. And I remember saying, okay, it's showtime. And when I was coaching, I would be in the parking lot. And the day of a meet, I would sit in the parking lot and I'd go, okay, it's showtime. And I would like transform from Valorie to Miss Val because it was showtime. And it was exhausting having to be up and on for that many hours, that much of my day. And my husband said one time to me, he said, around everybody else, you are up, you're gregarious, you're exciting, you're vivacious. And then you come home and you just crash. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous. And so I thought about Coach and that he was always just the same. He was always gregarious, social, fun, but there wasn't these peaks and valleys. And that was like one of the biggest personal things that I learned from him. Something else that I learned was while he had a very quick wit, really sharp wit, he was never degrading. His wit was never sarcastic to the point that it was demeaning or degrading. And I have a very sarcastic wit, and my student athletes have called me out on it before. And I just realized, you can lead a full, fun, gregarious life without being demeaning to other people.
And I'm sure your student athletes probably have easily picked up on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember the year, and I've called a few of them asking them. There was one year, about 4 or 5 years into my head coaching career, where the whole team sat me down for 2 hours and told me how my sarcasm was hurtful. And that while they realized that I thought I was funny, they said, most any given day we're exhausted. We may have family problems, boyfriend problems, girlfriend problems, whatever. We may be studying for an exam. We may not feel good. We may be on our periods, whatever. And you're, coming in every day making these sarcastic quips, and it's just exhausting. It's not funny, mainly because we're exhausted. We just want to get in, enjoy our team, get better, and go to class. We don't need your sarcasm. And it was like, whoa, the mirror was put up in front of me. And it was a choice I had to make. I could say, well, guess what? I'm the head coach. It's my program. I can lead it and coach any way I want. And you can choose to stay or not. Or I could realize that, you've not taught until they have learned. And I'm trying to teach them something every day to get better. And so if the way that I'm teaching is not resonating well with them and they're putting up a wall, then I should change my approach. And so I did. I still said the sarcasm in my head because I thought it was still really funny, but I didn't say it out loud.
So if we ever saw you chuckling on the sideline, we probably know that there was some good conversation going on in your head.
Yep. Yes.
Can you tell us about your coaching philosophy?
Yeah. Again, I remember early on as a head coach, I thought the best thing that I could do, since I knew nothing, was to emulate other coaches. And in my mind, growing up, my paradigm of a coach was someone that was really is the word sardonic, where they're just like cutting. I don't know if that's the right word, but it sounds like a good word. And they're means, like, it's black and white. It's their way or the highway. They are, talk about sarcastic quips. They are, and I thought Bobby Knight. Well, let's try to emulate Bobby Knight. And it was horrible. I was horrible when I was just posturing as this badass coach. It just did not feel real and authentic at all. And two things happened. One was I came across Coach Wooden's definition of success. And for those of your listeners who don't know, you should look it up. It says success is peace of mind, which is a direct result in the self-satisfaction one gets from becoming the best they are able to become. And I read that over like 40, 50 times because he'd won 10 championships in 12 years. Coaches are hired to win. Why didn't he mention winning in his definition of success? And when I read it enough times, I had the biggest aha moment of my career. Success is peace of mind and becoming the best you that you can be. And I had been trying to be somebody else. So in that moment, I realized whenever you try to be somebody else, you will always be a second-rate them. And it prevents you from becoming a first-rate you. So I went back to my office and I thought, well, how am I going to be a first-rate me if I don't resonate with the world of athletics? Because from Pee Wee football to the Olympic Games, to the NCAA, to the NFL, to the World Cup soccer, on any level, it seemed to me like athletics was all about bragging rights and figuring out how to win at any cost so that you could say, haha, we beat you. And how many gazillions of dollars are spent every year on bragging rights? It was so silly to me. That's just so immature and silly. There's so many things going on in the world right now that really need our attention and our finances, and we're spending all this money on bragging rights? So then I thought, well, there has to be another reason to do sport. And then I realized that sport, regardless of what sport it is one of, if not the greatest venue to learn really tough life lessons. And once I had that aha moment and I realized, you know what? I'm going to develop champions in life through sport. And if I do my job well enough recruiting and recruit talent, especially being at a place like UCLA, we're going to be able to win. We will win. But my focus is on developing young women to take ownership of their lives and be champions in life. And when they graduate from their sport, to leave a positive footprint in life for as long as they're on earth. That's my job. That's my calling. That is how I'm going to help motivate young women to want to change and not dictate change for the sake of winning. And that's been my North Star. That rings very, very true to me and my heart and who I am. So that's how I've coached the majority of my career.
So if you could use 3 words to describe your coaching style, what 3 words would you say?
Enthusiastic, grateful, appreciative, and a combination of tough love and empathy, which I think which go together nicely. But almost every single day, especially the last few years, we would start every workout with the girls closing their eyes, taking deep breaths, and thinking of something that they were grateful for that they had not earned. And one of those things is, like, every morning I wake up, I'm so grateful that I can get out of bed on my own, that I'm healthy enough of mind and body to be able to function on my own without assistance of another, because that's not something that I've earned. I was born this way. And then let's take it a step further and give thanks every day to the people that have preserved our freedom in this country, for as women to be able to do sports, especially in leotards, because there's a lot of places in the world where girls can't do sports and they can't be wearing leotards. So let's just give thanks for those people that have preserved our freedom. And with that gratitude, let's give better intention to every single thing you do today in the gym to honor them.
I love that example, and I'm guessing probably many of our coaches who are listening to this podcast. Can you give us another example of something that would showcase your attitude of gratitude, your coaching philosophy, your integrity, and how you did that with your student athletes, either daily or weekly or something? Could you give us an example?
Yeah, I think, one of the examples that comes to mind because it's so fresh this year is Caitlin Ohashi. And she's the young woman that went viral this last year with her routine. And it was her freshman year, and she was, prior to coming to college, she was one of the greatest gymnasts in the world. In fact, she's the last gymnast to beat Simone Biles in the all-around. And she quit training elite right before, a year before the Olympic Games, which everybody thought she was going to make the Olympic team and she was going to go professional and never go to college. And she decided to come to college, and she got out of shape, probably gave us about 60-70% of her ability her freshman year. And we were in a team meeting with our sports psychologist about a month after season started. And he was going around the room asking all of our student athletes, what's the anchor that you have inside of yourself that's preventing you from being all that you can be? And she very unapologetically said, I just don't want to be great again. And that stabbed me like a knife to the heart. And the psychologist looked at me and he said, Miss Val, what do you think about that? And it was like all these thoughts were going through my mind. It's like, well, I'm hired to win. I've recruited one of the best gymnasts in the world. I'm giving you a full scholarship, out-of-state scholarships, about $60,000 a year. And you're telling me you don't want to be great. What am I supposed to do with this? And in that moment, I realized I can't make her want to be great. I have to motivate her to want to be great again and to fall in love with the sport and not see it as something that makes her miserable, but that she enjoys. And the only way I'm going to do that is to gain her trust that I care more about her as a human being than as the athlete that's going to put up points for us. And in any relationship, trust takes time. And so I backed off, and I made a point every time we were out of the gym to never, ever bring up gymnastics. And so every once in a while I'd ask her to go to lunch, or I'd ask her to stop by my office, and I just checked in. How you doing? How's school going? What's going on? How's your relationship? You got a boyfriend? You know, how things going on with your parents? Just what's going on in life? And I wish I had a video of watching her, this invisible wall, literally melt in front of her as we would have these meetings, and she would realize I was really interested in her as a person. And that gained her trust, and any interview you see that she gives, she will say, Miss Val helped me find my joy again in gymnastics and in life. And through that, she became a champion of her life. And as my coaching philosophy states, it translated to the competition floor.
I think when you were talking about that, I think about probably, these last 10, 12, maybe 15 years, so many of our coaches have had to evolve in their coaching philosophy, their coaching style to better connect with today's student athletes, they're motivated different maybe than in your early careers. I think this is a perfect example of that. Did you consciously evolve, or was this just something that naturally came about?
No, I consciously evolved. I'm a voracious reader, and I have intrinsic understanding that I want to continue learning until the day I die. And we have I would say most coaches that are still coaching today have evolved. And I have student athletes that have told me that when I first started coaching, they felt that I bullied them. I was mean. I've already told you they thought I was sarcastic. All these things. And coming back to the importance of truth and reconciliation, to be able to acknowledge the things that you've done and that have been hurtful, or the things that just haven't worked. Like, I hate it. One of the things I hate when coaches say is, I give up. I've told her 100 different ways how to change her back handspring, and she refuses to listen, so I give up. I'm like, no. As a coach, you never get to give up. You don't get to give up. You have to find another way. So it's come from a lot of studying, learning, and being open to criticism from my student athletes. Having, there's a statement out there that's getting very popular right now, feedback-rich environments, and having an environment and a culture within UCLA Gymnastics where the student athletes can tell you anything as long as it's honest and respectful. that's another thing that I preach to them. You can say anything you want to anyone as long as you are being respectful and honest. And if you're having a heart to heart like that, and if you're not being honest, you're not being respectful, because what you're saying is, I don't trust that you can handle the truth. So I've had many, many times that student athletes have asked to have an individual meeting with me. They come into my office, they shut the door, and they tell me some things that are really hard for me to hear, that are hypocrisies of me, what I'm preaching to them, but what I'm doing myself. And it's been great. It's such a gift as a coach, as a parent, as a teacher, to get feedback like that, to learn from the people that you are teaching.
What a gift and what a great lesson. I love that. So you've talked about, even in your early years, your approach to coaching, and then how you evolved, and now you've evolved again. And it's one thing to build and rebuild a culture. And how do you, in an individual sport like gymnastics, because there's such an individual component, obviously there's a team component, how do you sustain that team, that winning team culture, that buy-in for so many years?
Because I really believe we're all on the same plane. Even though I've got Olympic gold medalists on my team, they do not get any privileges that a walk-on gets. I don't get privileges that my student athletes don't get. And I try to keep a really healthy balance of that. We're all servants. We are all stewards of the program that is UCLA Gymnastics. Some people, if a top athlete like Caitlin gets a privilege where she doesn't have to train as long or as hard or do as many reps, it's because that's what's best for her individually, to be able to be her best when the meet competition comes up in 3 days on the weekend. But the foundation of our culture is based on just being a good human being. And we spend a lot of time talking about, when we don't do well gymnastically, it's not because of gymnastics or our training, it's because of cracks in our foundation. It's about our integrity. It's about our honesty with ourselves and each other. It's about our respect and how we've treated other people. It's about who we are and the character we are as people, that when we do well gymnastically, we need to look at that foundation, not gymnastics, not how many reps we're doing of a skill.
Well, I'm guessing certainly you sat in living rooms all over the country and all over the world to convince these young women to come to UCLA to compete for you. There's probably as much about the character, if not more, than the talent. What were some of those intangibles that you really keyed in on?
Well, and you know what? I have sat in a lot of living rooms with parents and coaches. Parents and student athletes, recruits, and even their coaches. And some of them just want to win. Some of them don't want to talk about, I'm going to help your daughter develop into the best version of herself that I can help her between the ages of 18 and 22 years old. They're like, yeah, but are you going to win, coach? Because, the coach at Georgia, she's won 10 championships, and the coach at, and you've only won this many championships. It's like, okay. And as soon as they only talk about winning, unless the recruit finds value in what I'm telling her, it won't work. It will not work. And the parent, what I've noticed too, is the parents and the coaching staff have to be on the same page. There have been even simple things where I've had to tell freshman parents, moms, you cannot come up and do your daughter's laundry. You can't do it. And if she brings it home to do, she can do it at home. You cannot. It's like Coach Wooden used to quote Abraham Lincoln all the time, and now I quote both of them. And the worst thing you can do for a child is the things that they should and can do for themselves. So an 18-year-old can do her laundry. Don't do it for her. Let her do it. Please, please let her do it.
Valorie, I want to talk about your book, Life is Short, Don't Wait to Dance, described as part autobiography, part self-help book. I'm not shocked to hear that now for this conversation with you. Part leadership book, Can you tell us more about it?
I'd love to. Thank you for asking. It's a very simple read. It's about a 5 or 6 hour read. It's written in my voice. And it just talks about how did someone who's never been involved with athletics become one of the winningest coaches in her field. And it goes into a lot of what we've discussed about how I felt motivated to develop my own philosophy outside of what was the norm of coaching styles. How I feel very strongly about whether you are instructing a student, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a coach, clergy, whomever, if you have oversee the development of a child of any sense or a youth, that we have a very strong responsibility to help them figure out how to be the best versions of themselves through whatever venue that may be. And it from what people have told me, and I didn't plan it this way, but from what people have told me, every page or two, there are these little nuggets that ring true with them. Like one of them is, I don't believe in the concept of perfection, that even though I'm in a sport that is based on perfection, we strive to be excellent because there is no such thing as perfection. And so the way that we strive to do that is by simply determining what that goal is to get 1% better each day, just 1%. And if you add up 1% every day, whoa, by the end of the week, you're going to have made substantial progress. Another nugget that people really rings true with a lot of people is I talk about going through breast cancer 4 years ago. And when I was hit with it, the news that I had a very aggressive form of breast cancer, that I heard very clearly, be anxious for nothing and grateful for all things. And when I took this, I didn't know how I was not supposed to be anxious through gratitude. Like, what was I grateful for? That I just got diagnosed with this potentially fatal disease. But when I went to my oncologist the next day and she said, had you been diagnosed 10 years prior, we had absolutely nothing for you, your type of breast cancer, I understood the commandment of how I was not going to be anxious was through gratitude. And to the point where I called going to chemotherapy my chemo spa, because I got to live at a time that had the medicine that was going to cure me. I got to get chemotherapy. I didn't have to get chemotherapy. And the book goes into a lot about how your life really changes when you change that one word, have, to get. I don't have to go to work today. I get to go to work because I have a job. How cool is that? I don't have to go put gas in my car. I get to go put gas in my car because I can afford a car and I can afford the gas to put in the car. This is awesome. And that one message really rings true. In fact, just this morning, I received 2 more emails or Facebook messages from people, direct messages that I don't know, that said they read the book and that one nugget has changed their lives. So the book is entitled Life is Short, Don't Wait to Dance. Obviously, dance is a metaphor for anything that makes your heart sing in life. And the truth that we all live with is none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And so I make a point of not missing out on one day of enjoying my life and my dance.
I hope our coaches go check that out. It sounds like an awesome book. Maybe we can work out a deal and we could give one signed copy away to one of our members or something.
Let's do it. I'm up
I know.
for that.
Totally. Awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you go though yet.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about your summit in October. Give us the lowdown.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. I'm so honored to be a part of this with the Aspen Institute. They have such a great platform going out on how to keep kids in sport, and that it's not about the kids. It's about the parents and the coaches. We have to redefine success for our children. So it can't be all about winning. It can't be about comparing them to another teammate. It can't be about striving to earn that medal It's got to be about enjoying and finding joy and fulfillment in working through the hard stuff and the stuff that you don't like to do every day. And this whole summit is just about reconfiguring how we talk about success and winning with our youth.
Well, and it's so much needed, especially as we know, and I'm familiar with the Aspen Institute and the research that just came out and showing that even young girls are leaving at a rate so many more times than young boys. So this is awesome. How do our listeners find out more about your summit?
It's absolutely horrible. I mean, the dropout rate for young girls is 65% before they're 11 years old. And the studies have shown that girls play sports for relationships. That's a wonderful reason to play sports. But let's make sure those relationships are healthy, and let's help foster those relationships in being healthy like that. You can go online to Aspen Institute and sign up. You can check out my social media. I'm going to keep posting about it. It's just an unbelievable thing that they're doing. Positively.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear a positive keyword there. That is a keyword. Mm-hmm. So we end every episode with rapid fire. I get to put you on the hot seat for 5 questions.
I love it.
If you could use one word to describe you, what would you say?
Vivacious.
I would have never guessed. I love it. And Valorie. Vivacious. I love it. What's your favorite place to sneak away on UCLA's campus?
That's a great question. They've recently built a hotel convention center with a Mediterranean style restaurant called Platia. And I'm Greek. And the whole courtyard has olive trees. And my family is from Kalamata in Greece, where the olives come from. So I go there. When I was on campus, I went every single day and just hung out. The girls called it my new office. I hung out in this beautiful patio. And in LA, the weather is usually 72 degrees and gorgeous. And the staff is unbelievable. I literally felt like whenever I go there, I feel like the staff is my family and I'm back in Greece.
Valorie, what keeps you awake at night?
That's a really good question. I just pray that I have enough days in my life to accomplish all the things that I'm really inspired to do. One of them is I'm really close to getting an urban nutcracker produced for film. And it's really important to me because I want to marry the classics of Tchaikovsky with the street performance arts, including X Games, and just bring the classics to a whole nother genre of kids that skateboard and hip hop and jump rope and all of that. And I want to produce a theater show about the environment called Trash. And I've just got these projects that are really important. I feel like would leave a really positive footprint and positive message. And I want to have enough days in my life to get them complete.
That's awesome. So inspiring.
Thank you.
What's the one thing you're most proud of?
Probably my growth mindset that I learned at a young age from my mom, the importance of being able to apologize sincerely and how empowering that is when you can tell someone I'm really sorry for whatever. And then how it enables you to make better decisions as you grow up. I remember hearing one time, we all grow older, but we all don't grow up. And I would say that is, I'm growing up. I choose to grow up with as much humility as I can.
As you know, our WeCOACH community represents female coaches of all sports, all levels across the country, global representation. If you could hack into our WeCOACH Twitter account and send one tweet, what would you say?
Oh, gosh, these are such good questions. Wow, Megan. I would say to women, one of the most badass characteristics that women have, I don't know if it's intuitively more or that we have fostered it more, is intuition. and to honor your intuition as a coach. And so when you're coaching someone, you're in a difficult situation, if you can pause and really feel some empathy and compassion for the young athlete that you're working with, and use your intuition instead of what the books say to do or what another coach would do. But your personal intuition is a very, very powerful personality trait that I think women coaches foster more than male coaches.
You nailed it. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Honestly, this has been so much fun. I can't thank you enough for taking time to be here.
I can't thank you for all you're doing. This is a very important podcast, and I'm excited to blast it out on my social as much as I can and get people to tune in, because we are at the time that we can increase the number of female coaches that will hopefully help young girls stay in sport longer. And it's on us. It's our job to do it. And it's our responsibility. I'm excited to be a part of that narrative.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's like I almost teed you up, but I didn't. So thank you for saying that.
My pleasure. Thank you both so much. Appreciate it, Megan.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
Thanks for listening to today's episode with Miss Val. We want to hear from you, our listeners. Please share your comments on our social media pages at WeCOACH or at Wisp Sports on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The show notes for this episode can be found on our show page at wispsports.com. Do you love to read and want to build a network of female coaches? Our next book club series will go live very soon. Stay tuned to our social media. Want to join us in the Bay Area? Go online and register for Beyond the X's and O's workshop on September 30th in San Francisco. And don't miss the next episode of the WeCOACH podcast. Subscribe to Wisp Sports on your favorite podcast app to catch each new episode dropping every other Thursday. Until next time, all sports, one voice, WeCOACH. New episode dropping every other Thursday.